Yeah, so when I finished this wholesale business, I at that time was then in my store already because I couldn't do two things at the same time. I could not run a wholesale business, paint all that, and then take all the orders from people, and they all became personal orders, which I'd never had before. Plus that I filled up the store at the same time with all my artwork, and it was a hilarious, great time. I met the most incredible people, people from the symphony, from the opera. They all wanted a piece of stuff, and then Europeans came in. That was a really great time. And men came in for little shoes for their kids. It was fabulous. It was a really, really great time. But again, it was fashion and art. Art, fashion. Now one day, of course, every fashion changes. So the wearable arts sort of slowly. I hit the right time with the art and the fashion because it was new. Everybody wanted it. It was new. But I know, like fashion goes, all of a sudden that ends, and it ended, and I was happy because I had done enough. I couldn't create more. That was just the end of a 10 years creation and 4 years in my studio, so that was enough for me. And then I decided, hey, I want to, dress up a little. I want to get out there and see what's going on in Paris and New York and the Netherlands, and what kind of clothes people were wearing, because I was sort of locked in my own clothing. And I did, and Paris opened up my eyes, and all the designers I met was incredible, and I said I just really start going into the fashion of it. The clothes really turned me on, and I still felt I was doing art by picking the right designers and the right clothing, and everything had a little thing to it. It wasn't the plain looking clothing, they all had an edge to it, and I loved it. Until 2005, it was again more or less enough for me. And then I decided to end that time in San Francisco, and I moved back to Europe, and I moved to Berlin. So now I'm in Berlin, and it's such an amazing city, but it's also a German city. I'm Dutch, and if my parents were still alive, they would have said, no, not doing that. But that's why they came out, because I'm Dutch and I went to Berlin. That's why this deepness and this depth and this pain came out, because my parents suffered in the war. And I don't know if I can bring this out, but it is part of the pain that I had to solve for them in my work. Everything came out in my work, and it was nothing but pain, and I had incredible visions there about suffering. And Berlin is the place where a lot of things have happened during the war. And my parents suffered in the Netherlands because of this war. And I just went in there in Berlin with my eyes open, with no prejudice, just to be. And yet all this stuff came through me. Sitting in a train, thinking I was going somewhere, to a place that I was just whatever. I can't really put it in words now. Maybe it's not even good to talk about. But a lot of issues. And now I'm back here in America again, and these issues are not happening. These depths of my soul are just like, I am here, and I can go back to my parents, my life, my situation with my brothers and my father, and all of a sudden it sort of comes out, and I have to paint it. But what I went through in Berlin was really deep, and a lot of issues came out, the issues that I don't feel right now. So that was a really important part. And I hadn't painted for a long time because I was fashion, art, fabric and all that. It was a very different mode I was in. Then I started to really use canvases. I started going to the art stores again, picking up, whatever I needed for a painting, and I was hooked. I just didn't even leave my place. I was hooked. I feel sorry for my dog. He didn't walk all the time, but hey, I needed to get it out, and it went really fast. And it's not all pretty. I can't show it to you all. Some of them I can show, but that's about it. These were my first ones, and then it's all red. It's a lot of red in there. These were still okay. So, but what I did is I didn't paint them like that. I painted them like this, upside down. That's how I started to see things. Nothing made sense. It could either go this way, or this way. But if I hang it this way, people turn around because they think this is the proper way. But that is not always the proper way, because who says this is the proper way? See what I mean? It could be like this too. And for me, it was like that. It was just coming to me. All these things were coming to me. So, and then I have another painting here, like me in a wheelchair. But I had 2 broken toes, so I felt like I was bound. Yeah, see it? So I thought, this is what it is when you really can't jump around and move around. So I went through that experience of feeling like I couldn't move. And that made a real impact on me. And that's how this painting was born. I have a lot of other paintings, but I have a very good friend sitting here with me, and she said I should talk about this painting. That's what we'll do. I don't know where to start here, but again, it is just, it's not a pretty painting, but there are issues being solved. And even if that painting never leaves the door, it will always stay with me, because it is something that I had to heal from. That's all I can say. And you can look at the painting and you see a lot of activity in this painting. You see a lot of pain, a lot of singing, but there's also a lot of commotion and a lot of redemption, and it's a lot of making up with life and feeling, after you've gone through all this, that you can still be here and still smile and still be happy. But I dealt with it in Berlin, and that was Berlin. Hello. Now I'm back in San Francisco again. It was a bit hard to be back from such a heavy city with so much art, so many people, such a good time. And then you come back and then you have to move on into your art world and find something there again to do and to see. There it was just like heavy. Then I come back here and I miss it because it was so heavy. Now I come back here and it's light, but I don't find my place here right now. I didn't. Now I'm fine again. But right after, it was very hard for me because I was lost a little bit, because here were I thought as soon as I have my paintings from Berlin, I'll be fine, but I wasn't fine, because that happened over there, and this was all open space again. It was, and that's, I think, means a lot to me, to fill that space with my art. And I never realized that so much before, because before I took it always for granted. Now I'm looking for it because I need it. So when I came back, in between a visit, I made this painting. This was about my parents. And again, what I did in Germany too, I put everything I put them in frames, because I felt a little bit sort of like I can't breathe. And I couldn't breathe there. But then came here, and then I thought of my parents, and I saw a picture of my parents and me. And I'm excluded, you see, I'm outside. I've always been I have 5 brothers, and I've always felt as a girl I was my father's favorite, but I was still outside the line. I was always like outside. So, here's my mother. My father was a very strong man, and my mother was a sweet woman. She was a beautiful, very artistic, very sweet, but I never thought that I never thought she took control of who she was, of what she wanted to be. It was just like she was in a situation where she actually didn't belong, because she was too sensitive. Before my father married her, she was a fashion designer. She was a person. She was somebody, and then they were married, and she had to quit her job. That was the 30s, I suppose, the 40s, and that went on for a long time, till the 50s. So I always felt that she was always off base, a little bit in pain. So this painting came out. And then you can see I have this little chain around her neck, but, here she is again, my mother, with all her children, bare-breasted. So I put myself in her situation. I wanted her, one day I painted her and I thought, I want her to be strong. I want her to be able to do this all by herself with all these kids. And I think she succeeded, and I felt at peace with that one. Then, since we were still in that mood, I also, this time, that's where I found my place is to go back to my parents. How can I fill this new space after I've been, in Berlin about the pain, what I experienced? Now, here I am, at the end of actually not at the end of my life, not the end of it's the end of another session, another period of my life. So, now I'm looking around me and I see my parents behind me, I see all my brothers behind me, and then I see Chris, my youngest brother. And just to see him makes me happy, because he passed away and I was able to get him, and I was able to put him on this campus, and I feel really good about that. So that part is done too. So I'm ready to go. And where do I go? I go to Paris. So you'll hear from me more. And thank you. If you have a chance to listen to this video, that would make me happy, and it's nice that you maybe have this interest in my art. That would be even better.